All right, let's go. My name's AJ. Delighted to be here with you. Did anybody see this presentation back in 2020 at the last BPM? Bad news, it's the same thing. So, well, I appreciate that.
I was a young pup then.
Now you're ready. That's right. Now you're ready to consume. That's good. That's good. Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that and terrified all at the same time. All right, here we go. Let's pray and we'll get started. Father God, thank you for this place and this space where we can learn how to effectively tell more people about you, because that's what this is all about. Is how do we bring people into our schools so that kids can learn about you and we can change a generation for Jesus. So make this moment a time of engagement, a time of learning, and a time that blesses our schools. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Amen. All right. Oh, no, this isn't working either. Oh, no, wrong button. All right. So my name's AJ. My whole career has been Christian schools, 12, 13 years now. Currently, I'm the executive director at Holy Trinity Lutheran in Edmond, Oklahoma. It's an awesome place. If you ever find yourself in Oklahoma, which nobody does, but if you ever find yourself in Oklahoma, come hang out with us. It's a great place. This is Becca. Becca is my director of communications. She's hanging out with us today, too, and she'll have some good insights if you talk to her later. I also, because of BPM, really, now have the opportunity to serve as the Director of Community Engagement in Queens, New York. So I'm carrying two jobs, which is a lot of fun. It's so cool. It hits two sides of my brain. It hits my Bible Belt, Jesus-loving Oklahoma space, and it hits my mission brain, because that's what Queens is a mission. And so, I mean, they're both missions, don't get me wrong, but two different things. Yeah. Well, I only do it every 8 weeks. And then Zoom is helpful. So, awards and accolades. And I had a pastor say this to me when I was in St. Louis. He said, AJ, despite your flaws, God picked you to be here right now. Despite your flaws, God picked you to be here right now. And that's not just true about me. That's true about everybody in the room, right? And so, I suffer with imposter syndrome. A lot of times I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is one of those moments, right? But God picked you and God picked me to be here in this time and place. And so He will bless that. He will bless that. Now I've got 3 thank yous that I want to get out before we get started, and you guys can hear about what you came to hear about. So first, my thank you, my wife, Kimberly. I've got 2 kids. She holds everything together for me. She is a former Lutheran school teacher. She's staying home these days. But I could not do this without this, right? Just couldn't do it. And so I'm very thankful for her. She gets to manage my 6-year-old Audrey, who is the sweetest little girl you'll ever meet, awesome first grader, and then my son EJ, who is a nutcase. He's 3, and he's crazy. But we love him. My second thank you, Messiah Lutheran School, St. Charles, Missouri. Messiah was the place that looked at me and said, you know, you're actually not a great teacher, but we think we can develop you into some sort of leader. And had leadership there pour into me and say, hey, we've got this idea for this position, Director of Admissions, and we think you'd be good at it. And I said, thank God, because I'm done with 5th graders, right? And so got to instead get to meet people and help bring people into the ministry. And then my last thank you, and I'm very thankful for Ryan Brado. I don't know if any of you know Ryan Brado. Ryan's my guy. Ryan has been incredibly gracious in being a sounding board for me, but then also everything that he learned and did in Milwaukee, he was so gracious in sharing content. And so it got my brain into a space. And so everything I've done has come from Ryan. Everything has been built off of that, just with different observations and experiences that I've had. But I'm very thankful for him and so happy that he's happy here in Phoenix at Grand Canyon. So let's go. A few different topics that we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about your contextual truth, 6 keys to new family recruitment, and there's a little retention piece in there too that we'll chat about. We're going to define some buyers. We'll talk about process and personnel, and then engagement. And then I've got a few little rants. I said notes because it looks nicer to say notes than rants, but a few little rants for you to finish this off. So first, and this is incredibly important, right? How many of you, your church school has a mission statement? Right? All of you, right? And that's very, very important. As an admissions group, as an administrative group in your school, you need to have a mission statement that is defined by your contextual truth, right? Because what works in Oklahoma doesn't work in New York City. And so you have to understand who's knocking on your door, and what your win is, what victory you're looking for in these discussions. So, first, contextual truth. We're going to use my places as our examples here. Our first contextual truth at Holy Trinity, Oklahoma City. Who is our market? We are proudly in Oklahoma the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. I've been in Oklahoma City for 3 years. I was in South Florida before that. And when I came to visit, and considering the call as executive director, I'm in my hotel, I'm getting ready for church on Sunday morning, and the weather guy says, "Boy, it's a beautiful day for your drive to church here in Oklahoma City." And I thought, what? I'm in South Florida. We don't talk about church on the news, right? And so we are proudly, and it's very, very influential that we are the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. It's a very Baptist place, as you can imagine. Strong Baptist roots. And we are also the home of Craig Rochelle and Life Church. So that is a contextual truth that we know that Oklahoma City is the foundation of the largest church of the country. And so we need to know that shapes how our people think, right? And then finally, and this is exciting, but Oklahoma City is growing like crazy. We are, based on census projections, going to be the 25th largest city in the country. When I got to Oklahoma 3 years ago, we were 42. So we're growing like a weed, and specifically, they're coming up from Texas, and they're coming from California. Cost of living and remote work are really why. And then we've got a really, really strong mayor in our city, and that's been very helpful. He's encouraging that growth, right? So how? What is our message? What are people looking for? They want safe. Everybody wants safe. That's going to be consistent. They want family-focused, right? There's still that value there. When I was in South Florida, about 60 to 65% of our kids came from split-parent households, right? It's just single mom, or mom and dad are divorced, or whatever. Oklahoma City is like 34%. That frames how you talk, right? That frames how you support parents. So you need to know those things. So we need to be family-focused, high rigor. We've got decent public schools. They've lost the trust of the people, which is helpful for us. But the expectation is that we will have a high standard of education in the classroom. And then finally, we're cost effective. We are the cheapest game in town. And we're still able to pay all our bills. We've got an incredibly supportive church, and so that's helpful. So we're able to keep that tuition number down. And so for us, defining our wins. We have an opportunity here in this moment especially to introduce Lutheranism to our city, to introduce the Lutheran Church to our city. And so we need to grab that, and the way that we can grab that is through education and gospel transformation. How many people know the rapper Flame? Anybody familiar with him? So this guy that was a Calvinist, grew up in Atlanta, pretty famous Christian rapper. He just went through full pastoral training at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. And he talks very, very openly about how transforming that was. Learning how to talk about the gospel the way that you and I do every day, for him, with a Calvinist background, has been life-changing. And we can do that at Holy Trinity. We can introduce people to the idea that Jesus loves them, and good works come out of that love. And so it's an encouraging thing. So that's Holy Trinity. And then if you want to see something different, Martin Luther. Martin Luther is an awesome place. Queens, where Martin Luther is the most diverse borough and the most diverse city in the United States. So there are all different kinds of people. Little different than Oklahoma. Most people that are interested in us are public school scared or scarred. So they're either really worried about their kids getting eaten alive in public school, or it's already happened. Like they've already had that experience. And Queens is a blue collar borough. People not making what you would think when you think Manhattan, Times Square, all that sort of stuff, right? And their cost of living is still through the roof. Our how there is small, safe, and leadership training. We've developed this program that we call Head, Heart, Hands, where we are hitting the kids in all three spaces. You guys would know it as discipleship, but in Queens you can't say discipleship, right? They don't know what that word means. And so we've developed Head, Heart, Hands. This is how we're going to train your kid, right? And it's really, it's IQ, EQ, and JQ, right? It's all the same, but we have to frame it differently because of our context. And then finally, our real. And this is a big deal. We are likely the only way any of these kids will hear about Jesus. We've got one bite at that apple. So you got to take it seriously. It's really important. And so knowing that, having that come through with the staff is incredibly important because it is probably the only chance that we have. All right, any questions about that, developing your own contextual truth? Teachers are helpful in this because as an admissions director, if that's how you're serving, or if you're an upper level administration, you're not in the day-to-day grind with the kids. And so the teachers can identify if those things have shifted. The teachers can identify different things that are going on in kids' lives and see patterns in a way that I know I can't. So you need to rely on your teachers to help develop these things and see if there's an adjustment in that contextual truth. Because then you need to respond to it based on how you market and attract families. All right. New family recruitment, current family engagement. Our first 3 points, common language. I'll tell you a story. When I got to Trinity Del Rey in South Florida, I was trying to figure out how it worked around there. I was serving as principal, trying to figure out how the admissions process worked because, I'm going to invest in the thing that I know. And we had their enrollment fee, registration fee, admissions fee, and those were all the same thing, but people referred to it in different ways, and I found it super confusing, and I worked there, right? And so having a consistent way that you speak when you're onboarding new families is incredibly important, because you don't want them to say, wait, I thought I paid the enrollment fee. Is this reg fee different? Like, no, it's the same thing. People are just calling it different. And so it's really important that you have common language. I'll give you an example from this year where we failed. We're in our back to school night, right? All the parents are in the sanctuary learning about what the new year is going to look like. And our principal, who I love, stood up and said, hey, we're going to do drop off and pick up the same way we did last year. Well, that last year was new, right? And so because of COVID, we're going to do drop off and pick up the same way we did last year. Well, what if I'm new this year?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. The way we did last year means nothing to me. And so we have to be really careful about our language and our common language. Make sure everybody is speaking, especially to new families, in the same way that helps fold them in. It gives clarity of thought, right? Next, the campus experience. Everybody tours people in different ways. You understand your own campus. Your campus is unique. I want to strongly encourage you to get outsiders on your campus and tell you what they like and don't. Because when you live there every day, that trash can being in a weird spot or that mark on the wall, you don't notice it. It's like stuff in your house. You don't notice. So you need fresh eyes on your campus all the time. You need to know what works and what doesn't work. You need to know what turns people off and what excites them about your place. And when you just are walking around there every day, it starts to feel like home, right? You don't even notice. So that's very helpful. And you need to be intentional about how you do campus visits. We're going to talk a little bit about the when here in a little while, but how you do campus visits. The initial tour cannot be the only time people come on your campus before they say yes or no to you. You need to do the initial tour, and it needs to be dynamic, and it needs to be intelligently designed, but then you have to have a reason for them to come back. You have to have a reason for them to come back. So whether that's, hey, you know, we've got this concert coming up, that invite to get them back on campus is really helpful. It makes you look vibrant. If it's just, all right, well, let us know what you think. Let us know if you're picking us. And then they don't call for 4 or 5 days, they're gone. They're gone. So you have to have an intentional reason to get them back on campus. Shadow days are the best way to do it. Get the initial tour with mom and dad, get the kids to shadow. And you can do shadows as young as pre-K. You can do shadows as young as pre-K. My teachers love shadows in the younger grades because they can start to identify, oh, we're going to need to work with Johnny on this. Oh, hey, we probably need to do some special ed testing here for this kid if we're going to take him. Or, oh man, what mom is saying he is and what he is are two totally different things. We need to be intentional about what we do. So that's very helpful. And then once you get the yes from them, help that grade and those classes have just solo grade events to bring kids in and bring the new kids on campus before they walk in the door on the first day, right? And we can talk about parent engagement later, but one of the best ways to do this is pick a mom that's a raving fan in this grade and just connect the parents. And ask that mom to intentionally set up like play dates, basically, hangout time with these kids. So that way, when your new student is walking in first day of school, it's not new. They're already expecting to see 4 of their buddies sitting in the classroom, right? And that takes away that angst for mom, because now mom's made a friend, or dad. But it also just helps the child fold into that culture much easier. And then finally, personal touches. Every time somebody tells you that they're interested in your school, they call that a lead, right? Every time they say it, you got to be on it. You have to respond to them as fast as you can. Best case, 5 minutes. Best case, 5 minutes. Because probably they're school shopping, right? They're not just looking at you, they're looking at other places. And when they inquire with you, that is the moment where they feel best about you. Because they've made the decision to click the button and type in their information. They're excited to learn about you. So you need to build a system where you get an immediate alert, and there's companies that can do this for you, so that you can immediately reach back out, even if it's just with a little text message. But some sort of response that's not automated, that's authentic, will really hit hearts. And it will differentiate you from the other places they're looking at. Good. Any questions about any of those? 3 more. PR and communication. This is where having a team to do this is very helpful. Like Becca, we really need to maintain visible presence in our feeder pods. And this is really for high schools. I'll give you a good story. I had a team. I was coaching basketball at Messiah. I had a team. They were really good. Lots of great athletes. Ended up doing really well. And the first time I met the basketball coach from the high school, or he came to see my kids, was halfway through our season. He walked into our gym in January. And he's like, well, where are your kids going? I'm like, not with you. They've already made that decision. And I've had public school basketball coaches in my gym because they know we've got kids with talent. That decision, if you're in a high school, that decision for where they're going to go, you really need to solidify those relationships in 7th grade. That's where that relationship gets built. And so having intentional moments to get whoever your key individuals are on your campus, or you be on their campus, is super important. So that's more a high school thing. Let me tell you something that doesn't work with preschools. If you've got a preschool, this doesn't work hunting for kindergartners. Because I made that mistake when I was at Messiah. I was like, there's big preschools all around us that don't send their kids anywhere else. So I'm going to try to build relationships with these preschools. And they were not interested. And here's why they weren't interested. All right, if I get Jimmy, who's in 4th, who's going to go in kindergarten, but I've got a preschool, I'm going to get Jimmy's little brother and little sister when they come along too. So they are not interested in building that relationship with you. Don't waste your time. preschool feeder. If you've got a preschool feeders into your kindergarten doesn't exist unless it's your own. So don't. I bought so many bagels and I got 0 return. An enhanced web presence. You all have websites. How many of you would describe them as good? Good. 3? That's pretty telling. That's pretty telling. Because, I mean, we all know millennials are the worst, right? We all know millennials are the worst. I am one, so I get to say it. They are not calling. They're not calling. It's word of mouth and the internet. So your website is incredibly important. I've got a resource if you need to build a website. I can't have 20 people calling him at once, so we'll have to strategically figure out when we flex this. But he's dirt cheap. He's dirt cheap. He loves the mission, and he'll build it for you. It's great. We just redid Martin Luther's website, and we went from just a disaster to a nice, clean site. And so I'll get you that source. But you've got to invest in that. It's got to happen. All right, smart marketing. Word of mouth is still king. Word of mouth will always be king. That's true. But there's other things that we can do. How many of you try to get reviews from parents? Facebook, Google, private school review, all that sort of stuff. How many of you actually get reviews from parents? Cool. How do you do it?
I walk up to them and I say, "Can you please write a review? We haven't had a review in like 2 years or whatever, maybe." And then they're like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah, cool.
And I send them the link.
And how do you follow up?
I send them the link.
Okay.
And then they go right to it.
Good. That's a great answer. We've just stumbled onto something that's worked, and we're doing it both at Holy Trinity and at Martin Luther. I don't know, do you guys do like students of the month in your place? Or highlight students for achievement? Well, you probably should start if you don't. But every time we have a student of the month, they then get it's a stock email, but they then get a nice email from the principal saying, "Hey, will you review for us? Here's the 5 links." Because you know when that mom feels great? When she's reminded that little Johnny was star of the month. And we've seen a significant increase in our reviews since then. So that's a simple thing to do. It's a simple stock email to build out. We even, I think for Holy Trinity, we've even got like the kid holding the little shining star, right? So you even get that emotional attachment to the picture. That's good. The last thing I'll highlight here, outside rentals. Do it and do it for free. I've got a buddy who's a pastor of an Anandam church in South Florida, and we brought him here to BPM. And he said, "Man, you Lutherans have got some buildings." And he's right. He's right. Because we've been, for the most part, around for so long, we've got facility when most other startups don't, and it's too expensive to build. And so it's a great way to fold them in. But if you're going to give it to them for free, you get to dictate terms, and you get to have presence, right? You get to spend time talking to whoever the leaders are of that place. And we've grabbed kids from basketball teams. We've grabbed kids from volleyball teams that use our gym late at night because they're like, "Wow, this place is clean." And oh, hey, like I'll just go and start talking to parents that are picking up kids. It takes boldness. Not everybody's got that skill set. But if you can find the right person to do it, and we'll talk about how you find the right person, it does work. Next, brand management, building cleanliness, professional dress. We can talk about all that. That's all pretty self-explanatory. You need a branding guide for your organization. What will confuse people or drive people crazy is if you've got multiple logos, right? When I got to Holy Trinity, I found like 7 different lions. 7 different lions for athletics. You know who doesn't do that? Every quality high school and college that people, your buyers, see their branding, right? There's not 14 different ways to write Coca-Cola. No, we all know the script, right? There's not 14 different ways to say you're going to love the way we fly, right? Southwest, you just know what that looks like. It pops into everybody's head. You need to do that as well. Because people experience quality branding through every part of their life now, because everything's so digitized. You need to have it too. Because it is what will differentiate you from a competitor. So get that tightened up. Becca, if you've got questions about that, She's creative, I'm not. Praise God. She'll be able to help you with that. Any questions there? You know who's going to hate that, by the way? The teacher that gets to build out the chapel logo every year. Be sensitive to how you do this. When I was at Trinity Del Rey, the preschool had a different logo and a different entrance than the day school. You know what we had a really tough time doing? Moving kids from preschool to day school. And I thought the logo, the separate preschool logo, was a symptom of a huge problem we had. So I got rid of it. That was a tough stretch. Because I didn't know when I got rid of it how attached to that logo my early childhood director was. And she and I had some battles over it. But I got rid of it. And then when I left, you know what came back?
Wow.
That's all right. Buyer profiles. Does anybody do buyer profiles? Have anybody in here that's done buyer profiles? Oh, guys, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to define the typical type person that's walking into your building to know how to customize what you do to hook them. And there's different parents have different things that they're interested in. And there's different pain points. These are going to be sweeping generalizations, but these are what we've built for Oklahoma City. And as you walk through tours with people, you'll say, oh, I know this buyer. I know this buyer. And I know what I'm going to talk about.
So do you build several?
Yeah, we'll give you 4 examples. And then I left one key one out. We've actually got 5. I left one key one out to see if you guys can pick up what the 5th one is. If you've seen this before, you might remember. All right, first, Christian Chris. Christian Chris probably owns the T-shirt that says, Jesus is my homeboy. Right? Christian Chris wants his kids in a Christian school. He's in church every Sunday. 38-year-old dad, typically working middle class. Tuition is kind of a sacrifice for him, right? Because he's got a couple kids. But this is the best investment he believes he will ever make. His intel sources, close friends, internet, and news sources. He's not on Facebook. He's not on Facebook. That's something that he's opted out of. He wants a safe environment for his kids. One of his favorite things to say is let them be little. Let them be little. Let them be young. Let them be kids for as long as possible. And his greatest fear is that he sends them to a public school and the world's going to hit him too soon in a way that he can't control. So that's Christian Chris. His pain points, distance to school. He lives about 20 minutes away. He just heard about us from a friend. And he's never had to pay for school before. So figuring that out is a challenge for him. So that's Christian Chris. This is Chevy Suburban Sally. We all know Chevy Suburban Sally. The mom that's got the giant Suburban and only one kid. We all know Chevy Suburban Sally. She's a 34-year-old stay-at-home. Husband does really, really well, but isn't around a lot because of his job. So she's picking where the child goes to school. Dad will come to events and that sort of stuff, but you're not going to see Dad a whole lot. Her child is elite, just ask her, and her goal is to maximize that eliteness. And so our talking points that we have is all of the extra things that we have: full band, full drama, 9 sports. But also, your child is special and we have small class sizes. So he will get the individual attention that he needs. And you can pick this up just by hearing people talk about their kids. So that's Chevy Suburban Sally. This is Marriott Marty. Marty's got a lot of Marriott points because he does a lot of traveling. He likes taking his family on vacations with all the points that from his business. He works in Edmond. He's got a nice place. He's got an office in downtown Oklahoma City. And for us, he travels to Dallas and Houston a lot. Marty is a workaholic, but Marty makes the decisions in his house. And so he wants to know that his kids are going to be ready to go to the high school that is going to get them ahead. And so that's, with Marty, we're talking about math and science. With Marty, we're talking about math and science. And then we'll also talk about leadership opportunities, the different sort of things we do to promote that in our kids. Marty probably doesn't want to hear about Jesus. But we'll hook him and we'll get his kid to learn about Jesus. Right? And finally, provider Patty. 45 years old, North Oklahoma City, single mom, 2 kids. Boy, she loves those kids. Right? She's doing her best. She's grinding. Her kids haven't had a good public school experience. That was her first choice because that makes her life easier. Public school, bus, all that sort of stuff. But her kids are getting swallowed up. She's bothered by the things that they're experiencing. She also doesn't feel like her kids get the attention that they need. And she knows that that's kind of a gap at home too because she's so busy trying to keep this all together. And so she is looking for safe and secure and comfortable for her family. People that won't judge her. In Oklahoma City, it's a big deal. People that won't judge her because she's divorced and by herself. She's looking for a place that'll welcome her and her kids. And she will be, if you hook her, she will be at every single event. She'll be a raving fan. You want to find somebody to write a review? If you do this well, she'll write you an awesome review. Because you'll be able to provide what she's looking for. All right, so that's the 4 that we've got in Oklahoma City. There's a 5th one that I want to see if it exists in your context. I want to take just 5 minutes. You guys can talk sort of amongst yourselves and see if you can figure out who that 5th one would be based on your context.
You got one that's where is it living as well?
Am I talking too fast?
No. It's like, well, for me, it's enough that it like has to, you have to give me attention to
That's probably where our living but we have
I need this time. I need the time to just like slow down, let them interact, and just reset.
I went to Martin Luther.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Very good.
I was a principal at what now is it was Redeemer Lutheran School in Bayside.
Okay, sure.
And that's
sure.
where I grew up.
Cool.
in Bayside.
Cool. Very good.
So I took 2
Very
buses
good.
to school, hour 45
Sure.
minutes.
Yes,
each way,
that's
every day.
the one of the biggest struggles is easy transport
Yeah.
for kids because there's no train that comes anywhere close. It's a challenge.
High school.
It's 6 through 12.
6 through 12.
6 through 12. Yeah.
Because really, I would say our marketing strategy was academics. It was AP.
Really.
And lots of high achievement, get into a great school, national merit scholars.
Okay, because the academic quality is poor.
Yeah, because that was the thing that drew. But we were probably 40% Lutherans.
Okay, sure. Kids, right. What do you say it was 40% white at that time?
No, I would say 30.
30,
And
okay.
then it was about 30% black and about 25% Asian.
Okay.
And then Hispanic, Puerto Rican.
Sure. Okay.
And the white kids were, Greek and Polish.
Okay.
Because there's a great big Polish community.
So when did you graduate?
78.
78. Okay. So Jim Regan is the executive director there. So Jim's been very good to me. Mike Jacob is president of the board. So those are kind of the two long-standing. And then Ann Boyle is still there.
And I'd have to think about who that is. Jim was just a kind of an athletic hero for us.
Sure, absolutely.
Jim and John.
He still looks like Superman.
Oh, I believe it. I just want to give you a card because I don't know if he would remember me from Adam. He might. I don't know. Oh, gosh. There we are.
Great. I'm going to see him in 2 weeks. So
I'm in
I'll.
Idaho, and we're
cool.
blessed with 540 students.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Country.
That's awesome. That's great. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and bring it back. Love hearing all the conversation. I want to know who you identified That is different than what we have for our list. I want to know, does anybody have?
We have two.
Okay.
One is a legacy family.
Okay.
Who they grew up in
Interesting.
schools, not necessarily the one that you're at,
Right.
but they want the same experience
Okay.
for your family.
Cool.
And then, because the two of us, mine would be athletics.
Okay.
And somebody who's very sports
Gotcha.
specific, that academics is secondary. How are you? But I still want them to not be the dumbest kid.
Sure.
So,
Right. So Sports Steve and Lutheran Loretta?
because that's
Something
where
like that? Cool. Cool. Good. Yeah.
Like military Mike or something.
Oh, cool. So depending on your context, yeah, military Mike, we're not going to be around for more than a couple years, but I'm looking to keep my kid out of public school. That's interesting. That's a good one. Was there one over here?
Second Chance Sally,
Second Chance Sally. Tell me about her.
because they've gotten in trouble.
Oh.
Or they need for anything. And they need a,
So the challenge is they're going to look that buyer is probably, at least in your initial contact, not going to look like Second Chance Sally, because she's not going to tell you that their kid needs a second chance, right? They might, but a lot of times that conversation you'll be able to figure it out, and usually if you call the school, they'll give you the info, right? Cool. Yeah.
We kind of like the legacy, but like alumni Allen or whatever,
Okay.
because like we've been around 165 years. So I mean, we have a legacy. We have a lot of alumni families, but also there was a significant period of time when we didn't have good contact with alumni. So it's helping to explain what's still the same from when they were there, those traditions that
Sure.
they love, but also what's changed,
Changed.
and then helping them understand why did you not stay connected with me over these years. So. Just all those
Interesting.
pieces.
Yeah, that's that relationship building back with alumni. I'd love to talk to you more about it because I got none of it when I was at Messiah. We were a startup. Holy Trinity's a startup. So we don't have second generation kids. We don't have alumni kids. That's interesting. Yeah,
We just have some grandma ones.
there it is. That's the one that we have. Grandma. Grandma's going to pay for it. Grandma wants her kids in a Lutheran school. And it could be grandma or grandpa. It shouldn't just be generic that it's grandma, although a lot of times.
We also have a significant number of grandparents have custody of their kids.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, depending on
We have a
context.
lot of those families as well.
Yep. Good. Yeah, the grandparent one is very real. Cool. Anything else? Yeah.
Just to piggyback on what I can't see behind.
Yeah, you don't go.
I'm going to call it No Jesus Janice. I have some parents that say we want the private school experience, but we don't want our kids learning about Jesus or the Bible.
then you can find some of it.
That's this a lot of times. Kind of the same thing. Yeah, we're looking for an elite school. Yeah, that's good. We were
All I
just
can
like-
say is our alumni identify themselves as alumni of our 4-year-old program. And so we have our early child's about 250, but a lot of them then go right to public school. But then maybe they have grown up, gotten married, had a family, and maybe do better than their parents did, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And want to come back to be by grandma and grandpa, but they can afford the 2-year-old through 8th grade. And so you get a lot of people come in, and they probably say, yeah, I'm an alumni, I want to come back into your school, and you think you have an 8th grade
8th grade,
alumni,
right.
and they left at 4 years old.
That's
they
interesting.
Still identify that
As their place.
right.
That's
So
interesting.
That's a huge barrier.
That's
for
good.
us.
So that sounds to me like you had an awesome pre-K teacher or teachers.
Correct.
If people are cycling back around 25 years later, right? That's
It's
cool.
An interesting, well, sort of really common.
That's good. Cool.
We get a lot of the power couple. Dad's an engineer, mom's a doctor. They're both on their cell phones and getting their kid in school making A's.
Yeah. That's interesting. Who typically is the decider?
I think it's
So I just had a really interesting answer here. The kid is an interesting one. Maybe that's a good answer. Especially, and we're seeing it more and more. And I'm not seeing it, but hearing about it more and more, especially in the high school space. The kid picks. I'm like, your 14-year-old doesn't have a developed brain.
Yeah.
Like maybe you should make this call.
Have you seen
Or the money.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Or the money. That's right. That's right. That's right.
oh,
It's good. All right, cool. We'll move on. But these are also, I was talking earlier about spelling out your contextual truth with your teachers. Teachers love this. Teachers love building these. So could be a fun little. Now it's tough because you usually always have a new teacher in the room, which it can be informative for them, but they can't really contribute. So, and this is something that needs to be probably refreshed and redone and examined every other year or so. But you need to do it at the beginning of the year for when tours start, October, November, December. Good. Yeah.
I have one that's kind of like a combination of a couple, but it's the low income, maybe single mom, really wants their kids in the school, but doesn't know how they can make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it work.
That's interesting. What's your context? What location?
Small town Nebraska.
Small town Nebraska. Yeah. So that's really interesting.
So here's like in my school, we're tiny, right? So 63 kids preschool to 8th grade, 51 K to 8. Of those 51 kids, 20 of them are on free and reduced lunch.
Lunch. Yeah. Yeah.
That's our context.
We're gonna talk about scholarship money later.
Oh yeah.
We'll love to hear more about your place. But I've got a well, I mean, it's not radical anymore, but there's a way to do scholarship money that could change the game. All right, let's talk about process and personnel. Hey, I'm a teacher, or hey, I'm the principal. I don't got time for this, right? Which is a very real thing, right? So we're going to talk. Everybody's resource allocation in their ministry is different, right? HR resource, financial resource, and even talent available to you to hire. Everybody's context is different. So I'm going to try to help you with this, but your context is really going to matter. Before you hire somebody, take ownership of your process first. And your school secretary can be very helpful with this, but take ownership of the process. You need to have eyes on it because it's possible that how you bring families in hasn't changed in 20 years. And the only change that you've seen is made it easier on whoever is responsible for admissions, right? I see this all the time. Why do we do that way? Well, it's easier for me to manage is the eventual answer that you can get to when you keep asking the question. This is not about what's easy to manage. This is about hooking a person that could go somewhere else to pick you instead. And so you need eyes on it. And you need to make it as simple as possible, not for whoever's managing it, but for the parent themselves, right? Going to lead to some tough conversations with whoever's doing it right now. If you're doing it right now, good, go for it. And then we'll talk about a happy face here in a second. So process. First, does anybody not have online registration?
Not because we don't want it.
It shouldn't be an option. It's got to be online. It's got to be online. And for functionality's sake, it has to work as well on this as it does on your desktop. I can't overstate it. I honestly don't care how this might hurt your feelings. I don't care how your desktop website looks. It doesn't matter. Everybody's looking at your mobile site. And it's got to be easy to navigate because they're only touching their phone 3 or 4 times before they make a decision on you. This is what matters.
That didn't hurt my feelings, though. I
Good.
totally agree.
Good. Okay. Good. So get everything online. This was a pain point at Trinity Del Rey, getting everything online. If you have financial resource, I really like Fax, RenWeb Fax. I think it's the best student information system out there. I think the admission suite is awesome. That's what I would suggest. It's also going to be $7 or $8 grand a year. Right? Currently, and this is, I'm spilling blood about my current place. A week before I got to Holy Trinity, so June of 19, they signed a contract with Sycamore, and it's awful.
He's in the house, guys. He's in the house, and he's a good friend, so take it
Okay.
easy on him.
Well,
Good friend.
that's fine.
We're in the same boat. But
It's out of.
I gotta watch my back.
It's rough. It's rough.
They've
And
updated though.
that's not what I'm saying.
Sycamore has updated their whole process from December to now. So at least for the registration and re-enrollment, they have Sycamore 3.0,
Oh.
which
okay.
is kind of slick. And everything else is the other wonky 9 million pop-up version of Sycamore. But 3.0
Interesting.
is working for us.
Okay, that's good to hear because it was needed. So that's very good to hear. The other thing, and once again, this is for streamlining your workflow and ease of use for parents. Sycamore uses PayJunction as their billing processes, and the reporting that comes out of PayJunction is terrible, and it doesn't speak very well with Sycamore. And so we've had major accounting issues that have come out of that. We just got lit up in an audit because of how it functions. And Fax is all in one and includes the financial processing, which is super helpful. You're not using two different spaces; it's all integrated, and that makes it easier for whoever's handling your accounting, and it makes it easier for parents.
We use TAD, so it sounds fairly similar. We only use Sycamore now for, we have way too many.
Yeah, you got too many
Fax
systems. That's what
customer
you're
service
saying.
will walk through you with anything
Yes.
and everything to the minutia, even on Saturday nights, and you can call them and
Yeah.
be like,
That
yes, I'm
that
doing
was our
this.
problem.
And
We
they
had
will,
no training. It's here's Sycamore.
I call them.
Go for it. Yep,
And they walk
I'm with
through.
you. I'm with you. Cool. So at least do an audit of your student information system and that process, right? Good. Parents are going to get confused. Here's the thing: the mistake that I made was I lived the admissions process every day, so it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not as simple for parents who have all these other balls in the air, and then also I've got to navigate getting all my information to you, get my registration or enrollment or whatever we want to call your fee paid. Like this is new for them. It might be new for them in totality, or at least in your context. So you have to simplify it, and then you have to respond when they've got questions. You have to respond, and in all honesty, you got to figure out their tech viability, right? Can you walk them through it just with a conversation, or should you send them screenshots? Or does it need to be both, right? And it depends on their ability and your ability to communicate that. But expect parents to get confused. Don't get frustrated. They can hear it through the phone. And then provide opportunity for parents to get help. One thing that we started at Messiah, and they're still doing it today, is having the option monthly that if you want to go through all your paperwork, get your kid put together, you can come on campus. We'll even provide the computer for you, and I'll stand with you as you do this. And when we're talking about the grandma buyer, super helpful. Yes. Super helpful for the grandma buyer. Because this is all new to her, and you don't want her to get frustrated, because that's the first taste that they're getting of how your place works. It's the first bite of the apple, right? Personnel, if you have financial resource, hire somebody to do this full time.
Do it if you don't.
Do it if you don't is a good point. You get return on investment. Now, hire somebody is not like brain surgery, right? Hiring the right person is. Because if you make a mistake with your hire, you've cost yourself opportunity and real dollars, right? And so hire a raving fan, hire somebody that's already connected to you, and I cannot overstate this, hire somebody that understands confidentiality. Because that person is going to be in the office when all the other stuff is going on too, right? And I've had trouble with this in spots. They end up injecting themselves into spaces that maybe they don't need to be, or they have conversations, buzz conversations with other parents because that's what they've always done, right? And so you need to hire intelligently. Hire somebody that loves you. Hire somebody that you want to be around every day if you're a principal or an executive director or whatever, because you're going to be around them every day. And hire somebody that understands that this is not your home, this is a workplace. And so there are expectations for what you can and can't say. Because they are going to know who's on scholarship. They're going to know what kids come into the office because they got in a fight. They're going to know all those things. Even though it's not their space, they're going to know it. So be very, very careful. Then the last thing, once you hire them, your expectations for them and how you empower them is very important. What you don't want is turnover in that space, because you're going to have an employment gap where you're having to do it then. That's not very much fun. And then also, movement in and out of that space frequently sends a message to the community. that you don't have a cohesive place that people can reach out to.
We've been using enrollment more because we found the value of them holding, it's not just the parent saying yes, but what goes in between saying yes, paying the fee, filling out the forms online. Like it's almost more, that's more work or harder in some, once you get it up and running.
Sure.
But do you use the same person for that, or do you do that too?
No, so that's the same person. That is the same person. But I will give all tours right now. I'm not ready to hand it off to students or parents. Hopefully, you can get there. But right now, I think it's too important, so I do it.
But then you hand the parent off to them for the enrollment part.
That's the idea. I don't have an admissions director in my current context. I don't. My current context, I'm sorry, this is awkward for me because Becca's mom's our principal. Our current context, and I've only been there a few years, and I've been focusing on church, but our current context is our school's a mom and pop shop, and I'm working on swinging it to a professional organization. We're not there yet. Yeah. Well, we will. We'll get there. Yeah, so when you hire this person, they're going to work weird hours. Don't expect them to be there when the kids are there all the time. They're going to work weird hours. And it took a lot for me to get over that hump of not being there when the kids were there. Because remember, I was a teacher before I was an admissions director. So I was used to being there during the school day. But then I was touring people Saturday mornings. I was touring people Wednesday nights. So I turned it into this giant 80-hour job because I felt obligated to be in the office because the kids were there. You have to empower your admissions director. Hey, it's okay that you're not here at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday because I know you're here Saturday morning. And the job of an admissions director goes like this, right? There's 80-hour weeks, and then there's honestly 25-hour weeks. But those things balance out over the course of the year, and you need to give them that time to breathe. And just be around the kids.
And know why they're selling the school.
Yep. And just be a part of it.
Mentor people when you add this position to make it a salary position, not an hourly, because I had to fight that battle.
Correct.
Because it's like, how are we going to keep track of that time?
Yep.
Because
It's a nightmare.
You have to, your boards and stuff don't understand what you just said.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Salary makes it.
You don't want to pay me hourly. Oh, no.
All right, how much time do I have here? Good, we're on a good pace. Current family engagement. Growth happens through retention, not admissions. Growth happens through retention, not admissions.
So just to add to that, that's not family engagement only, that's teacher and whole school engagement. Because I've been told in this, I just have to say this because it helped my mindset so much as I same thing, classroom background and then admissions, and it was a whole new ballgame for everybody when I took this role. And I was told pretty much flat out, so I'd get people and families in the door, and they'd enroll, and I'd be so excited, and life was great. And then they'd turn around and they'd walk out a year, months, whatever later. And then I felt guilt. Like I had let this family down, and somebody, praise the Lord, spoke to me and said, your job is to get them in and do all the things that you just said. I'm the one that holds their hand through every single step of enrollment. I do that, but it's the teacher, the school, and the community's job to keep them retained. I hand it off. And that, somebody saying that to me was a huge burden for me personally, because I wanted them to be there forever.
So I will, I'm going to shake up a little bit of what you said. I believe it's your responsibility through year one. It's your responsibility to get them re-enrolled. I really believe that, and not from a you got to put in more hours, but build a process to which they are connecting to the community. Help your teachers, help your pastor, help your principal understand, hey, this family's struggling. Because you got to remember, you're the first friend they make. You're the first friend they make, and then if you just pull back out, doesn't send a great message. And so having just that occasional text message or email. Correct, yeah. No, you're not responsible for academic engagement. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, you
No,
gotta
I agree with everything until it comes to when they leave because of academic or a school-related issue,
Yeah.
I have zero.
There's a good way to work through some of that too. All right. So driving that loyalty and engagement, and this is maybe more for administrators, not necessarily the individual director of admissions, but just some ideas. Find ways to support parents. Here's my favorite one. Build a list of alumni that are babysitters and give it to anybody. Because parents are constantly looking for it.
Yes.
I've got 2 kids. There's nothing I like more than going out to dinner with my wife without kids. It's like my favorite thing ever. And for us in a new place, finding babysitters was a challenge. I'm like, we need to build a list. We need to build a list. And obviously you get permission from those parents and those babysitters, but even sharing where they're generally located. Do they drive or not? Like making that simple is a big deal. I've got, so my son's in Mother's Day out, and we've got a family that's going to leave. And I'm telling you, I'm convinced we are going to keep one of these kids, Lincoln, in EJ's class, because I told his mom about a babysitter so that they could go have a date night out. It's like, oh, this guy actually cares about me and my husband and my family. Like, it's just a little thing that is very simple to help engage. The other thing is Bark. Is anybody familiar with Bark? All right. These are very helpful. They're not so helpful in the hands of a 13, 15, 17-year-old, right? It's a lot of cyberbullying, a lot of concern about who parents are, a lot of concern from parents about what their kids are accessing. Bark is, you should get it all for your schools because it's free if you're on Google or Microsoft. Bark is basically a web monitoring software, for lack of a better term, that you can register your child's device with. We register all of our Chromebooks with. And I get emails if there are any references to alcohol, any references, things that might be bullying, anything about drug use, coming through our computers at school. And parents can do this for $6 for their child's device, $6 a month. It's changed the game for us in terms of cyberbullying. If a kid G-chats another kid and says, shut up, I know about it. Not addressing it in 8th grade, might be addressing it in 2nd grade, right? And so to tell parents, don't be afraid to give your kids a cell phone, and you're not going to intrude on them. But you, parent, will get the heads up if they're accessing or talking about something that is dangerous to them. Dangerous to their minds, their bodies. Super cool thing. Check it out. Bark.
We just installed it at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, used my daughter, who is the most boring child on the face of the earth. And so it was like HGTV. And my principal's like, seriously, this is the kid we're watching? But, I mean, it's amazing. You can go through time. I mean, it has, parents are so happy with it. Overall, they've been asking for something like this for 2 years. And it's one of the things that they feel like we care about them enough.
When you just tell them about it.
Their kid. And then also you can see if a teacher has locked their screens and unlocked them as well. So if a kid says, I didn't do anything bad at school today, you can actually, oh yeah, your teacher thinks you might have, I got locked up. But and if you're not doing anything bad, you're okay.
Right. Right.
But
well, and even I mean, there are, believe it or not, kids keep secrets from their parents. But that's acceptable. That's okay. Kids deserve that level of privacy. But we also need to protect them, and this is a good meshing of those two
huge
things.
Feedback. We had 95% of parents give us
Really good
total
feedback. That's
thumbs
good.
up on it. It was great.
Anytime, anywhere. Leads can come from anywhere. You need to treat them like gold. And I know a lot of places I've taken to, hey, we only do tours on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of every month. What if I can't be there? Right? What if I'm a parent and I can't be there? No, you need to tour them anytime, anywhere. Period. You need to show them that this is the place for them and you care about them and will even fit into your schedule the first time you're going to come on our campus. Whatever it takes. How many of you do surveys? If you're not, you should. And the surveys are super important. How many of you only do surveys once a year? So Sending out surveys frequently is super helpful. If you get return on them, right? If parents will actually fill them out. But just what we were talking about, the idea that I bring this kid in, I'm very excited to have them here, and then they're gone in a year. If you survey frequently, that might empower mom to give you the heads up that it's not going well before they've decided to leave, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, wait, Jimmy's leaving? I thought things were going great. Well, it turns out they weren't, and mom and dad aren't going to pick up the phone. They're just going to go. Well, if you can do survey intelligently, there's a way to grab that. Now, you're going to have biases in your survey. You need to try to weed those out as much as you can. I know that not very many people are principals and also data analysts, right? But if you can find ways to at least understand what your bias might be, that's helpful. There's a new thing coming out of Faith Vegas. It's not actually the guys at Faith Vegas, but it's somebody who's connected to them, that it's going to really help you intelligently survey your parents. They're piloting it this spring and hoping to launch next fall. I'm blanking on the name of it. Anyway, but you'll if you come back next year, I'll tell you about it. But it keeps a dashboard. It's got intelligently written questions by statisticians and data analysts, and it's pretty high end, and it's only going to be, I think, maybe like $2,000 a year. It's not going to cost you very much, and getting constant feedback from parents is helpful. It just is. And you can see who and what. It also will help you, if you're an administrator, know what's going on in classrooms sometimes. Because if you're getting like 8 different negative comments, specifically from 4th grade parents, all right, something's going on in that 4th grade room. I better spend a little bit more time in there. So that's helpful. Teacher engagement, and I'll tell you guys, and there's some teachers in the room, right? You know what teachers hate is the admissions director telling them that they need to try to sell the school. They just want to be in their classroom and teach their kids. That's what they do, right? But there are little things that are helpful. The 4-foot rule. This is an Apple thing. The 4-foot rule is, if you come within 4 feet of somebody, you need to smile and say hello. And telling your teachers that, and getting teachers to do that, is very important. I cannot tell you how off-putting it is if I'm walking a family on a tour and there's a teacher walking down the hallway in the class, and the teacher stays here and doesn't look up and engage. That puts a bad taste in that parent's mouth. So that 4-foot rule is very, very important. And, smiling and pretending like they like their job, we can ask them to do that, I think. Secondly, the 12-hour rule. The ask is, if a parent, that specifically has to do with shadow days. If a parent expresses interest in a shadow day, I need to know from a teacher within 12 hours what the best day for them to shadow. If it's Friday and they're taking 4 tests, I don't want a kid shadowing that day, right? When are you doing a science experiment? When are you having this cool math game that you're doing? What's going on in your classroom over the next 5 to 7 days that we want a kid to see? And so that's really, really important. And I need them to tell me now, not next week. I need them to tell me now. So if I ask you about a shadow, I need you to give me dates within 12 hours so that I can connect to parents. And then the last one that we'll talk about, online payments. Boy, parents hate writing checks. Experimenting with a thing, it doesn't seem that crazy. Trying to get them to do it at Martin Luther. All in tuition, literally everything. As a tuition option, lunch, field trips, athletics, everything. And you can spread it out over 12 months. Because you know what parents hate? Hey, here's your tuition number, but then also I need $35 for this, and I need $40 for this, and I need $70 for this. Can I just build out a price structure where we'll just get you, it's like an all-inclusive resort of a school, right? We'll get you everything.
That's fantastic.
I will warn you, a local private school to us included lunches and everything in there, and we had parents that came to us not liking that because they said, my child's a picky eater, so I'm paying for their lunch twice.
Right,
and
right. So
careful.
So the way to think about it is everybody's tuition number is different. If I don't want lunch as part of my package, okay.
Right.
That's fine. right? But I can wrap your lunch into your tuition cost. I can wrap the athletic fee into your tuition cost. I can wrap all these things into your tuition cost, because if I'm on a tight budget, it's helpful, number one, to not have surprise asks from my kid's school, and number two, to be able to pay for those things over 12 months.
And Fax will let you do that.
Yes.
And so
They put all of the, they will put all that.
Yep, yep, that's exactly right. Good. All right. 4 quick notes, and then we'll be out of here. 4 quick notes. First, let's talk about scholarships. And I know I've got some Milwaukee guys in the back, so this is not going to be a new idea to you. But stop budgeting scholarship dollars if you have open seats. Stop budgeting scholarship dollars if you have open seats. If you're filled to the max, okay, right? That's fine. If you're turning people away, just budget your scholarship dollars, and that's fine. Praise God that that's your situation. But if you've got open seats, take kids for $200 a month. Who cares? Your cost does not go this way. You're giving another kid Jesus, and you're going to make a little bit of money. That's going to blow the mind of your board and your accountant. The admissions director needs to be empowered to cut deals. And they're all one-year deals. And they got to apply for the scholarship. They got to get their information run through whoever your scholarship person is, or scholarship vendor is. But stop limiting the amount of money that you can give away if you've got empty seats. So much so that I had in South Florida, my admissions director and my finance person were constantly communicating, all right, we've got 1 empty seat in 4th grade.
Who you got? Right.
Doesn't matter. Or who told us that they didn't pick us? They were going back to public school because they couldn't afford it. It's a complete change in mindset. They did it in Milwaukee, and I think it worked all right. It seems like. Now, Wisconsin's a different animal because there's vouchers, so that changes how that math works, right? Indiana, I think, right?
Indiana
Also.
has 'em.
And so that changes how that math works. It makes it easier to do, to be really honest. But if you want to talk to somebody that's doing it well, Dan out in Parker, Colorado is doing it really well. That's the guy to call. This is a radical shift in mindset. And guys, it's a battle to get there. I'm fighting it with Martin Luther. I am fighting it with Martin Luther. I can't get him to see it. If you know anybody at Martin Luther, tell them it's a good idea. But I'm fighting it because Martin Luther has 80 empty seats. 80 empty seats. And we still limit our scholarship pool to $100,000 a year. Why? We can take 80 more kids at $1 a month and give 80 more kids Jesus, and our cost doesn't go up.
Yeah, you're already paying your teachers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's a battle. That's a battle to put in. You need somebody with vision to communicate it and pull it off. But it's an interesting idea. Secondly, do not be afraid to raise tuition. So many people live in fear of raising tuition. Do not be afraid. Holy Trinity, Edmond, is a great example of it. They hadn't raised tuition in 3 years when I got there. We've gone 15, 10, 15% the last 3 years. And I have not heard a single complaint. If your product is good, people will pay for it. People freak out in your place? Your face is telling me people freak out in your place.
We went up like 5 and 3%, so 8 in like a year and a half or 2 years, but that's an incredible amount.
Yeah. Well, the reason is we are still the cheapest game in town, so it's easier for us to do, because everywhere else they could go is more expensive, still, despite the increase. And secondly, we've turned it from a want to a need. Specifically with COVID, I've got a very good friend of mine that go to our church, Stephen, who was public school guy. I ain't paying for education, right? Really didn't prefer the public school response to COVID. Got his kids in. Now he's a raving fan. Right? Public school has snapped back to normal. He ain't leaving Holy Trinity. Because we've turned it from a want or kind of an idea to, no, my kid needs to be there. And I need to invest my dollars in my kid's education. So don't be afraid. that might blow your board's mind too. Third, and I love this, it's not for every context, it's not for every place, especially if you have high turnover, but I love auto re-enrollment for my admissions director specifically. And so the way that you do auto re-enrollment, it's not rocket science, but it's a flip. Every school I've been in waits for the parent to tell us that they're coming back. We're going to say that our product is good enough that we know you're coming back, and you got to tell us if you're not. And I'm going to charge you your enrollment fee on March 1st if you haven't told me that you're not coming back, and it ain't refundable. Because that seat is valuable to me. I want to give that seat to somebody else if you're not coming back. I don't got time for you to waffle. It's empowering. And parents are like, I don't have to do anything. It's just automatic, and you're just going to charge me? Great. Sounds awesome. You've got to have a great process and a great system.
Has anybody done that with fax? Have you done that with fax?
We did it when it was still split, Ren Web Fax, when I was in South Florida. And there is just an auto re-enroll button.
I approached them this year to see.
It works.
Fax walked me out.
Year one, people will be really confused, and then once it's in place, it's awesome.
I couldn't get the
It's awesome.
Yes. Oh.
And then number 4, we tried that. We tried that is the enemy of growth. We tried that is the enemy of growth, right? So if you've got an idea for a way to engage parents, whether it's new parents or current parents, and somebody says, yeah, we tried that, it didn't work, the next question you ask is why? The next question you ask is why? Well, tell me about it. Tell me the strategy behind it. Tell me how it went. Why do you think it didn't work? Well, could we do it differently? Has the market changed? We tried that is the enemy of growth. I truly believe it. If they've got good answer to those questions, to those why questions, okay, good. You're probably wrong, and they're probably right. If they've got good answers. But we tried that. It's painful. It's painful, and it is a Lutheran thing. Maybe it's other places too, but I know it's here, right? And finally, last thing I got for you, Becca built me this cool QR code. It's my business card. So if you want to get in contact with me, I will send anybody this. I will help you. Whatever you need from me. I'm a nerd over this stuff. I love it, and would love to help you with your place. So if you need anything from me, I'm very happy to help. If you need to be empowered in your space, and you need a consultant to come in and say, hey, no, this is a good idea, everything that he or she is saying is a good idea, I'm happy to do it, and I'm pretty cheap. So if you need a bad guy to come in and say, hey, we need this, or you need this, I'm happy to do it. I love talking to boards. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm very happy to do that for you as well. Would love to help you. All right? And I'm going to hang around if anybody's got any questions, wants to talk. Thank you.